time to wrap up August. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got my August wrap-up. We will have the books that I read this month. We'll have them listed down below if you want to take a look at them. This was not my best month in terms of reading. The quantity really wasn't there, but that was because I was really trying to push through getting through a couple of books that just really didn't work for me. So, I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, we have big things planned for the month of October, and we've been trying to do some filming ahead of time for that, and it's also been taking up some time, so I'm going to presume that September might be the same deal. Probably won't be getting as much book read because stuff's going on in October that we will eventually tell you. Probably the end of September we'll say what it is, or the first couple days of October we will. But yeah, so we're going to talk about my August wrap up here. A couple of these were bangers and a couple of them were not. So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get to the first book. Alright, the first book I'm going to talk about is a DNF, and that is Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez. So there was really good potential with this book. I probably got to about the last 20-30 pages. I really probably could have finished it, but I just really didn't want to finish this book, and I tried power throughing all of it, and it just was not good. So basically it's about this cannibal kid who's obviously a cannibal, and there's a group of like young teenagers who go to this like camp place that's been like abandoned, and all the kids are very douchey. I hate all the kid characters in this book. They're so annoying. There's one that I like, and it was the younger brother of one of the kids, and he was like... It's also hard to not spoil the book, too, because obviously it's a horror-type thriller book. It took me 2 weeks to really finish the book. I mean, the cover looks really nice. The premise is really, really cool. It's an urban legend of a cannibal in the woods. These kids go there to try and figure it out. The cannibal exists. I don't know. There is a lot of potential for the book. It kind of gives me like the Lost Village vibes, where like, sounds really good, kind of starts out okay, and then it just flopped. I just really didn't enjoy it. So obviously it's not going to have a star rating because I DNF'd it. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, Sergio Gomez, it just didn't work for me. Which for some people this book could work. I'm just not one of the people it worked for. So there you have Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez. Alright, the next book I'm going to talk about is another DNF, but one I could revisit in the future. And that is The Bird Eater by Anya Alborn. I got maybe about a quarter of the way through, and I had no idea where the hell the story was even going, being perfectly honest. I've read probably 4 or 5 Anya Alborn books. They all have been smackers. They all have been like 4 stars or better. It all started with Brother at the beginning of the year, and that was a 5-star. I haven't really had like a bad experience with Anya Alborn. This is like the first one where it's kind of been like, okay, where are you going with the story? Kind of plays off like Seed at the beginning. Something tragic happens to a child with their parents. They grow up, and as I was reading it, I'm like, I feel like I've read this story. It kind of was like the same deal with Seed, like I said. Seed turned out to be a pretty good book. This, I had no idea where it was going. I just didn't like it. So, just like with Ghost Story by Peter Straub, it's something I could readdress in the future, because obviously I want to read Anya Alborn. She's been a really good author for me, and I want to give her a more fair chance. But as of right now, The Bird Eater by Anya Alborn is a DNF, and this actually was on my August TBR list. So that's another one off the TBR list. Unfortunately, it was a DNF. So they have The Bird Eater by Anya Alborn. Alright, the next one I'm going to talk about is obviously the book that I was mostly anticipating for the year in general, and that is Billy Summers by Stephen King. Yes, the King book that came out earlier in the month. Gave it 5 stars. Absolutely love this book. I did a whole reading vlog on it. We'll have that linked up here if you want to check that out. This book probably has caused some issues with my top 10 of all time. It's definitely not my top 5, but it for sure is in my top 10. I need to readdress my top 10 at some point in the near future because I have read a couple more books. I'm currently in the process of doing something major for the channel, and I'm very excited to get it out there, and it could stir up some top 5 possibly. It's got a really sick cover. I like it a little better than the UK one, but I think the UK one still looks pretty cool. I also just want to own every cover that Stephen King has, so I don't know. But yeah, no, so brief description of the book. It's about a hitman who gets hired for one more job. He only takes the job if the person is truly a bad man, does the job, and basically gets, like, blackballed. It's completely bad. It, like, doesn't go right. And the character of Billy Summers himself is just such a cool character, and I absolutely loved him. It was just a really good book. I gave it 5 stars, there was no doubt. But check out the reading vlog because I talk about it a lot there and kind of give more description of what the book was about. So there you have Billy Summers by Stephen King. Alright, next book up is House of Shadows by Darcy Coates. So this is a duology, I think that's what it's called if there's 2 books, with House of Secrets, which is obviously the sequel to this. So what happens in this book is Sophie and her father kind of hit a snag in their life where he's basically going to be losing like all their money. They happen to meet this gentleman, this very rich gentleman, Mr. Argenton, and what happens is he ends up wanting to marry her. Literally, they just meet one time, and he's got a crap ton of money, goes to their house one day and is talking with them, and it's like, hey, I heard about like your boat thing kind of sinking that's going to ruin like your whole entire like money for a while. You're going to be losing a lot of it. Let me give you some money, but in return I want your daughter's hand in marriage. And she goes along with it. She goes to move in with him in this giant house. He's got his family there, brothers and sisters, and I think he's got a few aunts and uncles in the house, and ultimately all hell breaks loose in the house. Things kind of start moving. Some of the characters are kind of like weird, and when you find out what the actual truth is behind the house and behind like why the people are being so like sus in there, it's a very nice twist. And I gave it 5 stars, and like there's so much I want to like mention in this book, but I can't, obviously, because that would spoil the book. And obviously, like I just did with Jaws, but this is different. This book is so good. I can't wait to read House of Secrets. So there you have House of Shadows by Darcy Coates. Alright, the next one I'm going to talk about, I think was also... No, I don't think this was on my August TBR. I think I just kind of did this on a whim because I've been watching clips from the movie, and I'm like, I just want to read the book. And that's Jaws by Peter Benchley. It's very hard for me to talk about at the moment because the movie itself was such a cinematic masterpiece that I loved the movie a heck of a lot more than the book. The problem I have with... So, the book is... I'm going to give it 3.5 stars just because it's a very good story. But what knocks off that 1.5 stars... So, if you have not seen the movie, there are 3 folks who go out on a boat called the Orca to capture a great white shark that's terrorizing a town that literally thrives on, like, beach and, like, 4th of July weekend and stuff like that. There is Police Chief Brody. There is Mr. Hooper, which is a... he's kind of like an out-of-town guy who comes from... this like university. He studies like fish and all that kind of stuff, like aquatic things. And then there is probably my favorite, like one of my favorite cinematic characters ever, Quint, who is the fishing boat captain of the Orca. So how it plays out in the movie, that almost fell over. You were shaking. How it plays out in the movie is the 3 of them go out to try and capture this great white shark. Hooper goes in the water at some point towards the end to try and capture, or try and like kill the shark. He goes in like this the shark cage, and eventually the shark destroys the cage. Mr. Hooper gets out though. He survives. Quint dies, and the ship goes down, and Brody shoots it and kills it because he throws like an air tank in it and it blows up. Movie's over. Hooper and Brody are friends. They go to try and get back to land, floating on like some like weighted barrels, and all is happy. The book, however, which when I described it to my dad, he actually kind of gave me more insight and kind of was like, it's kind of more like the Moby Dick ending, where like Captain Ahab's going down fighting the whale or whatever. In this, there is a stupid, like, affair going on between Chief Brody's wife and Mr. Hooper. Absolutely hated that. It was so frustrating. It was the most annoying part of the book, where they secretly would go out, bang each other, and like Chief Brody's like, he knows about it, and it was very annoying. Quint's character, again, in this book, still even stole the show. Was very funny guy. This kind of goes down where Mr. Hooper goes down in the cage, he dies in the cage, and then as the ship goes down, Quint gets caught. He actually gets his foot wrapped up in a barrel and gets dragged down with the shark. And then as Brody's sitting there, like, waiting for the shark to come towards him, like, the shark just stops, sinks down, and, like, Brody looks in the water, and you see Quint, like, dragging behind it. And basically he killed the shark, like, going down with it. Which is exactly what happens with Moby Dick in that with Captain Ahab. That's at least what my dad had described to me. It was like a very iconic thing to kind of take from that book and put it into this book. And I don't know. I know I just dragged on about this book. I probably just I spoiled the entire book, and I'm sorry, but I really need to get that off my chest. But yeah, I mean, overall, it wasn't the worst book I've read. I just hated the like affair between Hooper and Brody's wife. I thought it didn't need to happen. I don't know. It was a very different experience. It was kind of like with Pet Sematary with the 2019 release, and I don't know. It was very different. I did not enjoy the book as much as I did the movie. So I know I just went on a long rant, but I don't know. 3.5 stars. There you have Jaws by Peter Benchley. Alright, last book I'm going to talk about is Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina. So, if you've seen the movie Knives Out, which Danielle and I have, there were numerous times where we said, this needs to be made into a book. This is probably the darndest closest thing that you're going to get to a book version of Knives Out, in my opinion. I gave it 5 stars. Sherry Lapina has been a very good author so far that Danielle and I have both read. So this is basically just like how Knives Out works. There's a death in the family. All the kids are set to get an inheritance. There's an aunt, which is the person who's died's sister, who's like very annoying in this book. Honestly, my least favorite character. And so I think there's three siblings, the older brother, a middle sister, and a younger sister. And then there is a housekeeper who like is the main person we're kind of following. And then there's the aunt. And then there's another twist in the book that I'm not going to spoil for you. But ideally what happens is the person, like the mother and father get murdered. And the mother doesn't really have like any like living relatives. It's all like the father. And the father basically, like before the murders happen, they all have like, I think it's Easter. I think they have Easter together. And the dad basically tells the son, F off, I'm cutting you off until you get your own job. You're not working with the company anymore. And a whole lot of bad things kind of happen between like the kids and the two adults, like the parents. They all leave that same night. They get murdered, and everyone's throwing each other's names around saying, well, you would do it because of this. You would do it because of this. You're the only one who knows about this. And so it's very like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And The twist at the end is very good. There's lots of twists in this book. Sherry Lapina is very good with her twists, and I absolutely loved them. So this book got 5 stars. Possibly one of the best books I've read all year so far. Just like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Probably a top 3 or top 5 for me. So, but yeah, very good book. Highly recommend it. And there you have Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina. Alright, these are the books that I read in August. Couple of DNFs, couple of 5 stars. Then a book right in the middle. So, very exciting month. Obviously, it's not as much as I would have liked, but what are you going to do? Sometimes you just have off months. We will have these books linked down below, so don't forget to check them out. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Also, let me know what you read in the month of August, because I'm intrigued to know. Maybe I can put it on TBR for a future month. But also, don't forget to subscribe. We're very close to 2,000 subscribers. Very exciting stuff. Please subscribe. It definitely helps us out for another 1,000 milestone. Then we'll be ready for 3,000. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.